You walk away. Not in anger. Not in desperation. But in silence. That moment, right there, is the one that echoes louder than anything you ever said. Because when a man walks away with calm in his chest and dignity in his spine, it sends shockwaves through the woman who once thought she had him wrapped around her finger. I have lived it. I have been the man who begged, who pleaded, who checked his phone waiting for her reply. And I have been the man who, one day, stood up, turned around, and walked away without a single word. You know which man felt power again? The second one. The man who stopped explaining himself. Who stopped chasing closure. Who stopped trying to fix what was already broken. That silence speaks louder than 1,000 arguments. She feels it. Not on the surface, not immediately. But deep inside, in the part of her that craves control, attention, and the game of emotional leverage. Your absence is not empty. It is a mirror. It forces her to see what she lost. It forces her to face her own reflection without your validation softening the edges. And that stings. This is not about revenge. It is not about making her suffer. It is about reclaiming your center. About showing her, and more importantly, showing yourself that you were never just an option. You were the prize. And when the prize walks away, the entire dynamic collapses. So here is your moment. Your awakening. Let this video be the start of something different. A version of you that doesn't need to scream to be heard. That doesn't need to stay in chaos to feel alive. Watch closely. Reflect deeply. Because by the end of this, you won't just understand what a woman feels when you walk away. You will understand what power really means. If you are ready to stop chasing and start rising, comment "I am the prize" below, and subscribe to this channel. Help this message reach every man who needs to remember his worth. Welcome to Stoic Legacy. Let us begin. Segment 1. The shock of losing control. When you walk away, you don't just leave the room, you collapse an entire illusion. You were never just a man in her life. You were the mirror that made her feel wanted, powerful, admired. And now, suddenly, that mirror is gone. Do you know what happens when a woman loses the very thing that inflated her ego every day? She panics. At first, she pretends. She posts more selfies. She goes silent. She even laughs a little louder with her friends. But inside, a quiet storm begins to build. It's not heartbreak yet. It's confusion. It's disbelief. Because men aren't supposed to do this. Men are supposed to chase. To call. To beg. That's the narrative she believed in. But not you. You didn't just pull away. You vanished with grace. No fight. No drama. Just presence turned into absence. That kind of silence is violent to someone who feeds on control. She checks her phone. Again. Nothing. She watches your story. You didn't watch hers. She likes a post. You don't respond. And now the questions begin to creep in like smoke under a locked door. Did he really leave? Is he really not coming back? Every minute that passes without your attention becomes a loud reminder that the game is over. And here's the twist. It's not love she misses. It's power. The power to pull you back in with a glance. The power to make you prove your worth. And now, stripped of that power, she stumbles. The same woman who once ignored your texts, delayed her replies, made you feel like an afterthought, is now waking up to the sting of rejection. Her ego is bruised. Her confidence cracked. But she won't show it. Not yet. She will test the waters first. A casual hello. A random meme. A double tap on your photo. All silent questions waiting for your reaction. But when you stay silent, truly silent, something deeper breaks. She realizes you are no longer playing the role she cast you in. You're not the chaser. You're not the fool. You're not the man desperate for her light. You have become something rare. The man who knows his worth. And that realization, that is the shock that rattles her more than any argument ever could. Segment 2. The rise of self-doubt and reflection. When a man truly walks away, not out of spite or manipulation but with a quiet certainty born from self-worth, something unexpected happens to the woman who once believed she held all the power. At first, she may scoff. She might even convince herself it is temporary. But as days pass and the silence thickens, that initial confidence begins to fracture. What replaces it is not just confusion. It is something deeper. Something more haunting. It is self-doubt. She starts to replay conversations, moments, memories. Not out of longing but out of curiosity laced with anxiety. Did she say something wrong? Was she too cold? Too demanding? Too indifferent? You see, walking away without explanation leaves a vacuum, and nature hates a vacuum. Her mind rushes to fill it with questions, with theories, with imagined scenarios where she could have done something differently. And for the first time in a long time, she is not thinking about how you should change. She is thinking about what she might have broken. That's the beginning of reflection. It doesn't arrive with tears or apologies. It creeps in quietly, in those moments when she's alone, when no one is watching, when even her curated smile can't hold back the echo of your absence. And that's when the real power shift happens. Because now, instead of holding the mirror for you to prove yourself, she is forced to look into one herself. And what she sees might not be pleasant. She sees the dismissive texts, the ignored efforts, the manipulative silences. She sees how she took your patience for granted, your presence for weakness. And that recognition burns. It's not the kind of pain that shows on her face. It's the kind that keeps her up at night, scrolling through old messages, staring at pictures she used to ignore, realizing she misread the quiet strength in you as passivity. But the man who walks away without looking back carries a weight most never understand. He carries history, emotion, restraint. It is not easy. It is a choice born of pain, but rooted in clarity. And when you made that choice, you handed her a gift most men never dare to give, a reflection of herself without your validation. That is what truly unsettles her. Because now, every man she meets after you will be measured against the man who walked away not in anger, but in power. She may never tell you. She may never say a word. But deep inside, she begins to question everything. Not just about you. About herself. And that silent self-inquiry, that mirror she now holds to her own behavior, is the first true moment of emotional growth. It may not bring you back. But it brings her face to face with a truth she never wanted to meet. You were never the weak one. You were the one strong enough to leave. Segment 3. The echo of your absence in her daily life. You might think she moves on quickly, that your absence is a momentary silence in her otherwise vibrant life. But the truth is quieter and far more haunting. It begins with the little things, the everyday rituals that once felt ordinary but now feel incomplete. She picks up her phone out of habit, half expecting a message from you, and when it doesn't come, she stares at the screen a little longer, pretending she wasn't waiting. At first, she tells herself she's fine. She tells her friends she needed space, that you were too emotional, too distant, too difficult. But behind those words is a war she doesn't talk about. Because the moment you walked away, something else walked in. Stillness. And in that stillness, your absence begins to echo. Not as a voice, but as a presence that lingers in every quiet corner of her world. When she hears your favorite song, she doesn't skip it. She listens, quietly, letting the lyrics sting. When she passes by the place you two visited, her eyes drift, searching the crowd, knowing you won't be there, and yet hoping for something irrational. Your absence is not a memory. It's a presence she cannot escape. It follows her into her mornings when she makes coffee for one. It whispers to her at night when she's scrolling through her feed, seeing couples smile and wondering if she pushed away the only man who truly saw her. And the worst part is, she cannot tell anyone. Because no one will understand why she misses the man she thought she could live without. No one will understand that what she lost was not just affection but the anchor that made her feel secure without ever needing to ask. You see, most men chase. Most beg to be seen. But you didn't. You walked away with dignity, with silence, with no need for revenge or drama. That silence, it screams louder than words. It reminds her that real men do not need to announce their worth. They live it. And suddenly, every man who enters her life feels different. Less grounded. Less aware. Less present. She compares them to you, even when she tells herself she's moved on. Because your absence taught her something her pride would not allow her to see before. That your presence was not weak. It was rare. It was calm. It was steady. And now that it is gone, her world is just a little noisier, a little messier, and a lot emptier. She may laugh. She may even find distractions. But deep down, she knows. Your absence changed her. Not because she misses love, but because she misses peace. A peace that only came from the one man who knew how to walk away without looking back, leaving behind not pain, but a mirror. A mirror that shows her who she became when she thought she had control. That reflection follows her everywhere now. Because what she lost was not just you. It was the version of herself that felt whole when you were around. And that loss, no matter how hard she hides it, lingers long after the silence has settled. Segment 4. When she starts to see you differently. There comes a moment, quiet and unspectacular, when she looks back and begins to see you with different eyes. Not the eyes clouded by ego or emotion, not the gaze that once searched for flaws to justify her distance, but eyes that now carry a strange clarity. Time has passed. The noise has faded. The distractions are no longer as satisfying. And in that stillness, her perception begins to shift. At first, it is subtle. A memory surfaces without warning. The way you listened without interrupting. The way your presence filled the room without demanding attention. She starts to realize that what she once called boring was actually peaceful. What she dismissed as predictable was actually consistent. What she thought was weakness was a strength so rare she didn't know how to hold it. You were not loud. You were not flashy. You did not need to prove anything. And that made her feel safe in ways she never understood until now. You were the eye in her storm, the one who could remain centered when everything else was spinning. And now that you are no longer there, the chaos is back. Not dramatic chaos, just the kind that leaves her feeling restless in a room full of people, lonely in the middle of a laugh, unsure even when she tells herself she is fine. That is when she starts to see you differently. Not as the man who walked away, but as the man who held his ground. The one who didn't chase, because he knew chasing only devalues the soul. The one who didn't play games, because he didn't need to manipulate to be seen. You were solid. And in your silence, you spoke the loudest truth. You had boundaries. You had self-respect. You had the strength to walk away from something that no longer aligned with your peace. That kind of strength is intimidating. But now, it is also magnetic. Because the further she drifts from you, the more she realizes that no one else has filled that space. No one else has matched your depth, your calm, your silence that said everything without saying a word. And it frustrates her. Because she wanted to believe that you were just another man. Easy to replace. Easy to forget. But the more she tries, the more she sees how rare you were. You did not crumble when she pulled away. You did not beg for love. You stood still. And now, in the quiet spaces of her life, she sees you differently. As the man who had the power to stay, but chose to walk when he was no longer valued. That image is burned into her memory. Not because it hurt, but because it taught her something about value. You see, she starts to understand now. Real strength is silent. Real men are grounded. And once they walk away, they do not return out of weakness. They return only for truth. And if that truth is missing, they keep walking. And that realization, though late, becomes the lesson she cannot unlearn. You were not the one who lost. You were the one who knew what you were worth. And that is something no one can ever unsee again. Segment 5. The power of not looking back. There is an unmatched strength in the man who walks away and never turns around. Not because he hates what he left behind, but because he finally loves himself enough to keep moving forward. That power is not loud. It does not announce itself. It is quiet, firm, like a lion who knows he never has to roar to prove who he is. And when you stop looking back, when you stop revisiting every memory, every word, every moment that made you question your worth, something incredible happens. You begin to heal. You begin to see yourself not as someone who was abandoned or misunderstood, but as someone who was preserved. Preserved from staying too long in a place that could no longer hold your truth. People often mistake indifference for power, but true power lies in detachment. When your soul no longer flinches at her name, when your hands no longer itch to reach out, when your heart no longer waits for closure, that is when you have won. You win not by proving her wrong, not by seeking revenge, not by making her jealous. You win by rebuilding yourself in silence, by becoming a version of you so strong, so whole, so untouchable, that even the thought of returning feels like a betrayal of your growth. And she will notice. She always does. The man who used to chase her shadow is now chasing his purpose. The man who once stared at a closed door is now building a kingdom where he is both the architect and the protector. That shift in your energy is what wakes her up. Not because she wants you back, but because she realizes she no longer has access to a man who was once within reach. You have evolved. And with that evolution comes a peace that is rare in this world. A peace that cannot be faked. A peace that comes only when you choose yourself every day, even when it hurts. There is a sacred silence in the man who does not look back. It is not arrogance. It is clarity. He knows that looking back serves no purpose. The lessons have been learned. The pain has been processed. And the chapter has been closed not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. So when she looks for you in the people around her, in the conversations, in the places you once shared, all she finds is absence. Not the absence that begs to be filled, but the kind that reminds her of presence. Your presence. That presence that used to be hers but is now devoted entirely to you. And that is the kind of absence that lingers. That is the kind of man who is never forgotten. Because when a man walks away without looking back, he becomes a mirror. Not of what she lost, but of what she could never break. That kind of power is eternal. That kind of man is rare. Segment 6. The quiet collapse behind the smile. She will smile in public, laugh with friends, and post pictures that scream confidence. But deep inside, behind that carefully curated performance, her world begins to crumble. When you walk away and do not look back, you break the illusion she built about herself. She always believed she had the upper hand, that you would come crawling back, that your silence was temporary. But when your absence becomes permanent, it forces her to sit with something more painful than anger. She sits with self-doubt. She questions her value, not because you insulted her, but because you left with your dignity intact. You did not plead. You did not fight. You simply vanished. That kind of silence creates an echo in her mind she cannot quiet. She replays old messages, revisits moments, and tries to identify when the shift happened. She wonders why her tactics failed on you. And that thought alone shatters her sense of control. She will not say it out loud, not to her friends, not even to herself. But she will feel it. The sting of being unseen. Of being walked away from without chaos. That quiet exit will haunt her more than any loud breakup. Because it shows her something she never considered. That maybe she was not as special as she believed. That maybe you were the one who had the power all along. She masks the pain with laughter, with distractions, with pretending. But when the noise fades, your silence remains. A reminder that she could not break you. That you walked away with your soul intact. That is what causes her real pain. Not the loss of you, but the realization that she never had you in the way she thought. And in that realization, her smile begins to fade, and the quiet collapse begins, one thought at a time. You walking away was never about hurting her. It was about saving yourself. You are not in this life to beg for love or prove your worth to someone who cannot see it. When you walk away in silence, with grace and strength, you leave behind a message more powerful than any confrontation. You tell the world that your value is not negotiable, your peace is not for sale, and your time is sacred. If she understands that too late, then that is her lesson to carry. Your lesson is to never forget who you are. To walk with dignity. To love with boundaries. To speak less and act more. And if you felt these words deeply, if you saw a part of your own journey in this story, then take a moment and subscribe to Stoic Legacy. It is a small favor that helps this message reach others who need to reclaim their strength, their silence, and their self-respect. Like the video if it resonated with you. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember this. Every step you take away from chaos is a step toward becoming unshakable. Stay stoic and build your stoic legacy.